Hey lads, Mad Hatter here, and once again, welcome back to the tier list. Now, thanks for leaving your kind and, elaborate opinions in the comments. Those of you that, actually used reason, so I appreciate that. I took a lot of it into account, and I've had some talks with other good players and players who've had experience in the game. Now, I've decided that since, most people simply just look at the tierings and they don't listen to the explanation, because that's what most people do, right? Every, comment mostly was, why isn't this hero S tier, or why is this hero here, when they just don't listen to the explanation. So we're going to be really generous with the tiering here, and if you either, follow the explanations, you'll know. I'm going to have more specific tier lists coming out, but it's really hard to make them since they're, very time invested, and each tier list is going to be separate. So I'm going to do element-based tier lists, damage type-based tier lists, support tier lists, DPS tier lists, specific content-based tier lists, and stuff like that. So yeah, but for that, we're going to have to hit some pretty big goals. I will be making the first specific content-based tier list, which is, I'm going to let you guys decide. So drop a comment on which content you want to see first. And for that, we're going to need a nice goal. And that's 300 likes. I mean, you guys can do it. I believe in you guys. Come on. All right. So let's begin. Let's first address some of the new changes. Nari, I believe, belongs in A+ tier simply because I didn't factor in most of her PvP competitiveness and the fact that, she's been around for her generic range defense shred for so long. Very good character. First Corps Commander, I mean, but she's A+, right? I definitely cut her a bit short because great party buff, right? Crit rate, very amazing. Really good mark defense shred, very good kit. She's essentially a much better Tinya, especially for mono darks and stuff, but she's usable everywhere else. Phenomenal character, right? Right, so I definitely think she's belonging in A+ at least. Everyone else I think is perfectly fine. A lot of the defense shredders, for example, Rainbow Melee, I explained that in my previous tier list, but a lot of you guys simply just didn't listen. But yeah, this is Rainbow Melee, Ray, Us, Lifeguard, Yuze, and Lilith. And then your lead is essentially whatever melee DPS you're using. And a lot of these characters can be, depending on what content you're doing. The reason why this is a general tier list, I'm going to be making specific content tier lists soon, but the reasoning is because when I make specific content tier lists, I'm generally not going to be factoring in people who don't know what content they want to do. So when I make general tier lists, the explanations matter the most. If you don't listen to the explanations, the tier list is of no significance, right? So if you don't know what content you want to do, I'm going to rank them based on, their generic performance, which isn't a good metric, right? But if you don't know what content you don't want to do, then no metric is useful, right? So please listen to the explanations. So, all right, let's begin. We have lots of things to get through. Beth, some people were doubting in S tier, but she's a complete PvP monster, scaling damage reduction, phenomenal DPS, whether it be single target or AoE. Amazing character, has lots of potential for melee in PvE as well. The only reason her PvE performance lags a bit is only because lack of proper support. Like, she does have Rainbow Melee, but compare Rainbow Melee support to her to mono range has for Claude and stuff. Let's begin. Lots of things to get through today. Sia is definitely an A+ tier character, right? Really good offensive healer. Phenomenal in boss rush, even though early boss rush, you don't need healing at all. Raids, you don't need healing at all. But when you're doing lots of trial stacking boss rush content, she's worse than, she's A, she's B+, right? When you're doing lots of trials, it becomes relatively hard to actually survive due to your character's AI. Your lead is pretty much almost always going to survive because you're macroing them and you're going to be able to dodge properly if you're good enough. But your AI, your other characters are generally going to just get hit by almost every other projectile. So Sia definitely helps because she'll provide pretty decent damage buffs while also keeping your team alive. She's very good for that. She's pretty useful in Colo as well as a balanced healer, unlike Maya. Maya is mostly a defensive option. Maya is still really good though, right? But Sia is a better offensive option for healing. Right, let's get on to the next hero. Mad Panda Trio, once again, not really used for much. Could be used for Arena. I've never seen her in Colo. Just, falling out of favor, right? Let's adjust some of the lower rankings. Aleph actually has a place in Arena now, which I haven't seen in a while due to, me not playing Arena. Because the game mode, I just can't. It's very boring. Oftentimes, ping is just a pain in the arse. We're going to be doing some tier changes down here. So, for example, we're going to be moving Lan up to bottom of C+, Canna to bottom of B. It's tough here. Scintilla to top of C+. And most of these, it's hard to say whether it's sequential or not. For example, I'd say S all the way to like B. None of these are sequential at all, right? Most of them are just there. But the rest, this is really, really tough here, right? Most of these guys, the only reason they're down here is because they don't dominate a niche, right? For example, Chrome is A simply because she absolutely dominates her niche, what she's supposed to be good at, which is expedition and mobbing content, so like co-op as well. She's top notch in those content, right? So what she's meant to be good at, she's phenomenal at it. But if you're a unit who isn't even good at what you're meant to be good at, you just don't deserve good placings. Next up, Bari. Bari is sadly completely fallen out of favor. D or F tier, right? The only reason I'm putting her in like D or maybe C is out of personal favoritism and the fact that she could, maybe get a second EX. But that's probably just me coping really, really hard. However, Bari has lots of potential if she does get a second EX because Mono Earth is always a good option in most content. But right now, she's just outdated. She's a pure glass cannon that just doesn't do enough damage and provides very little supportive utility. In fact, none for the most part. Parvati, phenomenal PvP unit. Really, really good Collab backline diver, right? Very, very solid. However, once again, not a great early to mid-game option, which is why she isn't higher. If this is a pure PvP tier list, she'd be higher than B+. It's also the same reason why Arena isn't higher than B+. It's because it's a general tier list, which once again isn't a good metric, but please listen to the explanations. They will explain everything. Gamma L, solid S tier. I mean, come on, generic range defense shredder, great party heals, great DPS, AoE, can hit over walls, phenomenal character, does pretty much everything you'd want him to. He's fallen off a bit. Actually, he's not great in Arena or Coliseum. If you're new or in mid-game, he's pretty good because, he has a decent kit, and early to mid-game Arena and Coliseum is mostly just whoever has the bigger beat stick in terms of stats, which Kama L is pretty good at because if you give him stats and he has more stats, he's just going to beat the crap out of the enemy as he's generally a really solid unit. Idle Eva, not really used for much, pretty decent basic buffer, but basic doesn't use her anymore due to there just being better basic compositions. Maybe if, another team or, she finds some use, she'll be really good. It's why I'm putting her at like B, because she's not bad. She has good offensive buffs for basics. Winling, I can't really rate her yet, but reading off her kit alone, right, the sheer power that kit has is deserving of A+ tier. But it's really hard to say. I'm not going to put her on here yet. When her banner comes around again and some more testing has been done in the global servers, I'll definitely rank her. It will probably be in the November tier list. Next up is Yunha. Obviously, S+ tier. I mean, come on. There's just nothing else to say. You have generic defense shred. You have unstoppable auto attack, you have healing, you have full party heals actually, you have crit multiplier buffs, you have range damage buffs, you have, what doesn't this unit do? One hit weapon skill, great powerful chain skill. This character just does everything imaginable. Heroes Kai has fallen off a lot. He would generally be in B+ tier because of his party buff, but he recently got adjusted, which is pretty much a nerf for the most part. So I'm gonna move Lupina up to B+ here actually. But yeah, he just fits along here. Characters who probably have some use, but it's not really potent enough for it to count for too much. Next up is Claude. Once again, S+ tier, S and A+. Actually, it's gonna be pseudo sequential, so it's not fully sequential, but I'd say you could take it into that manner. So we're gonna adjust this real quick, right? We're gonna move that down like this, like that. Yep, this works. I'd say this is a pretty good order. Okay, right. So Claude just does everything dark, defense shred, full screen AoE, great for mobbing contents, has self-sustain, has lots of high single target and AoE DPS, range damage, party buff. This character just pretty much does everything. It's a hyper carry, literally a hyper carry. So the difference between a carry and a hyper carry is a carry will generally do really well in one aspect, while a hyper carry will do really well at multiple aspects, right? Next up is, okay. the NTR monk, right? I forget his name, Chunryu, I think it is, but NTR monk, generic range defense shredder, pretty good for raids and stuff, but once again, he is just simply a generic range defense shredder. It's not that unique of a trait anymore, however, it is still a good raid trait, so he's probably going to fall in B plus B. However, his own element isn't that insane, sadly. Ranged light isn't that crazy. So yeah, and he does need his EX too, so you have to factor that in. Nari does not need her EX, so she can actually do pretty good damage on off-element teams, but Shinryo he's just worse Nari, right? Valencia, just expedition unit. I've seen her used in PvP sometimes, but outside of that, I don't really see her too much. Tinya, absolutely love her. Mark defense shred, but she is probably on her way to either get buffed, second EX, or just phased out simply because her EX does nothing. It does nothing.
Yeah. Alright, continuing onwards. Next up, we have Ascended Craig. Ascended Craig is definitely pretty much going to be sitting in A+. He is just that good, phenomenal tank for any activity that requires a tank. Works well in all content that needs a tank. Like, literally, there's nothing else to say. Colo, pretty much best in slot tank there. He's actually not even half bad in arena if you're trying to go for attack stacking. He is phenomenal in all PvE contents where you don't need full damage. For example, he's horrible in raids, pretty horrible in boss rush as well, but he's phenomenal in story, phenomenal in camo zone and stuff like that. But yeah, amazing tank, great at every single tank activity he does. He would pretty much be S tier, except, he is lacking in those heavy endgame contents, but he is phenomenal in Colosseum as well, so he could easily be S. He's just that powerful as a tank. Lena is phenomenal, right? Even though she's the only collab character I'm going to be ranking, because I think she's the only collab character who's worth pulling for, and the only one who's actually in the meta. Right, phenomenal Colosseum character, phenomenal arena character, really good, top-notch character in PvP content. Isn't even half bad in generic PvE content, and by that I mean Camazon or story and stuff, but those don't really need specific heroes. They can generally be brute forced if you have some form of game understanding. Next up is Rue, and as much as this pains me, she is not that phenomenal. Her melee form does allow her to be part of the rainbow melee for melee earth, so, that's, one purpose she has. She's also useful in mono earth and Colosseum and in arena, but outside of that, she really falls off. So, yeah, solid B plus tier, maybe B tier, depending on how you see it. Gabriel is going to be A tier, just generic, B. It's harder to say now because we've just been getting better and better specialist supports, like, for example, Future Knight got buffed and stuff, so generic offensive buffers don't really stand out as much because they have specific better elemental supports. But Gabriel is still really good, solid offensive support option, great party buff. Her healing is subpar though, because you're going to need her EX if you want her to have any healing at all, and then she's going to be your party leader if you want, solid healing at all, so don't use her for a proper healer. Veronica has fallen off, isn't really used outside of niche Colosseum comps, is actually decent in some Colosseum comps, but outside of that, I haven't really seen much usage. She's just a relic from the old water teams. I don't think Noxia is just a great PvP unit, phenomenal in arena, does pretty good in Colosseum too, and it's just a generically good hero. Doesn't really fit into any specific PvE comp, isn't even good in most PvE content because she provides too much balance. That's why she's so good in arena and Colo, because she has pretty good damage output, great survivability due to her bear, but outside of that doesn't really do too much in terms of offensive and supportive behavior. Am I missing anyone? Paimon. Once again, just niche PvP hero, usable in arena, has some Colo usage, but isn't really significant in terms of purpose and potency. Am I missing? I swear I'm missing someone here. This JPR is wicked confusing. I haven't seen the JPR for some characters. I don't think I'm missing anyone, right? Faye, May, no. Well, Ascension-wise, they're going to be, D tier, right? They're the same character. They can actually be moved up a bit if you have melee comps built already, but if you don't, it's whatever. Yeah, the rest is really, I can't see anyone. Oh, Carol, there she is. Yeah, monolight, melee monolight unit. Outside of that, doesn't really do too much. It's pretty much where she's going to be in B tier. Anyone else? We have Sohi, Aisha, blah 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 blah. I don't think we're missing anyone. Collab hero, collab hero. Yeah, I don't think we're missing anyone. I think that's it. I think we've completed the tier list. So yeah, that's awesome. This is pretty much the official, well, not really official, but official for what I'm uploading here for me, for my server, I think. But lots of changes could be made. There's definitely a lot of arguments for some things. It's going to get more accurate and more detailed and more specific as we go on. But for that, I'm going to need support from you guys. So, yeah, have fun. See you all in the next one.